Hello and welcome to Barcelona, where finally I'm here and the sun is shining and it's October. It make sense. But anyway, this is the new Cupra Terramar, which is like a Volkswagen Tiguan, like a Skoda Kodiaq in 5 seats. It's all part of the Volkswagen Group family. But in this video, I'll demonstrate to you how Cupra they've kind of made it different. They've made it unique. So let's take a little look around here on Nobby on Cars. Again, bearing in mind that this car is sitting on the platform of all the cars I've mentioned, when you look at it, if I cover up that badge, you might be like, what the hell is that car? And that's quite an achievement for a mass production car that is sharing the platforms with all the cars I've mentioned. So the nose is quite different. The matrix headlights on this car, they're not standard. You do get LEDs, but the matrix are fantastic. Then you've got the copper Cupra badge, you've got a little bit of grey inserts here. There's 9 colours, 2 of them will be available in matte, and this kind of purple grey effect looks kind of different in the sunlight. It looks really, really good. So a very distinctive nose on the front of the Teramar. When you go around to the sides, you see these beautiful copper inserts, alloys. They range from 18 to 20 inch in terms of wheel size on the car. You can get Akebono brakes, but only on the top spec VZ models. And on that note, Cupra say they will bring the full fat 265 or 272 in the hybrid version to Ireland. So lots of performance options in the car. In fact, it ranges from 150 brake horsepower right up to 272. So there's many powertrain options. I've also heard from Cupra that they are looking into the idea of getting a diesel version of this car into Ireland. It certainly wasn't a hard no. So if you're going to leave a comment saying, shame there's no diesel, let's just watch that space. Onto the plug-in hybrid then, you get the 50 kilowatt DC charging. You'll charge from 10 to 80% in about 26 minutes. Wall box at home, you'll get the usual 7.4, but there is 11 kilowatt AC charging on board. 2.5 hours if you charge it that way. Around the side, it's fairly Cupra-ish. There's nothing, massively distinctive about it, I suppose, from the side profile. It's the front and the back of the car that really makes it stand out. And if you don't have these huge alloy wheels, you can get up to 255 wide tyres on this car as well. So there is a performance slant kind of etched into this car at all times. But like a Cupra, the most beautiful part, in my opinion, is generally the back of them. So let's check that out. It would not be a Cupra without a light bar right across the back, and I love how they have the Cupra logo now as part of the light unit. It looks really eye-catching. Copper for the Cupra logo down here. A lower rear diffuser in slightly different colours. There's no big kind of cling-on things for aero qualities flipping out of the back of the car, really. Decent spoiler, wiper, obviously very important on cars. For some reason, some brands have decided they don't want them anymore. But yeah, a very distinctive rear. If you're really up close to it, I mean, it could be a lay-on, it could be a few different models from Cupra, so they all kind of absorbing into each other. Now, the boot in the hybrid is a little bit compromised because under here you have all this battery space going on. So if you want 600 plus, and that's including up to the rear bench height, you've got to get the standard petrol versions, or if diesel happens, of the car. So you're going to lose space. You're talking in the 400s versus the 600s. That literally is your floor height up. I mean, it hasn't got a lip, but I know personally my dog box would not fit in the back of this car. You'd have to remove this part of the shelf, and even then, the way the rear windscreen slopes down, not sure if it's going to fit. Also, there's a blanking plate where there should be a 12-volt charger. Now, I don't know if that's just a pre-production thing or something, but I like my camping and my cooler boxes, so you want to be able to plug something in there, and you can't. The Skoda Kodiaq, by contrast, has a much bigger boot and a lot more gadgetry going on in here. So, worth looking at if the boot is important to you. If it's all about the superficial stuff, then the Cupra is going to be a winner every time. There is space for 3 people in the back of the car, but 2 people are definitely going to be more comfortable. A few reasons for that. The slope of the roof does impede a little bit into roof height, but for me, it's all right, 175 centimeters. Armrest is here, nothing too fancy in it, nothing family orientated in terms of things to hold on to, tablets or devices. And the seats are quite comfortable. This, as usual now with brands, is a kind of a synthetic leather effect feel, but seats are comfortable. I love this, the Cupra logo, just again staring back at you as a passenger. Also copper inserts in the door cards and a nice copper strip running along here. And again, these little touches are what separate this model from something else from the VW family, and there's splatters of copper and orange lights and different textures going on, and generally speaking they are pretty good quality. They feel pretty good. Down here, depending on spec versions, you'll get a couple of USB-C chargers and your own climate control back here. But again, not all models are going to get that. And there's a harder seat back here, a little bit of grooves going on to give you a bit more space for your knees. But it's certainly not the biggest car back here. I've just noticed something about this kind of finish, and it actually reminds me of the skin of a fish. And when you see that and you think of a trout, you'll think of me and the Cupra Terramar. Right, so we have a 12, just under 13-inch screen here. It's angled towards the driver. This is obviously a left-hand drive car, so I'm assuming they angle it back that way for the right-hand drive. And then you've got 10.25 here for the driver with a head-up display in this particular car. What I love about Cupra, and I say it in every single review, is their steering wheels. They're so different. They look cool. You've got this logo steering back at you at all times. Engine stop start is here, and depending on what version you have, you'll have a Cupra shortcut button here to bring it to Cupra mode, which makes everything get louder and go faster. The seats are very comfortable, high backs. There's bolsters, good bolstering on them. Armrest is not the biggest, but I have found a 12-volt charging socket, which is at least something. And then there's one charging plate for your phone. The Kodiaq has 2. It's 15 watt and it is cooled, so it should hopefully keep your device, I wouldn't say chilled, but less hot when you're charging it. Drinks holders, I mean, the front one is good. The rear one, you might fit a flat white in there if you're lucky. Now, Volkswagen Group have listened to customers and people like me moaning about the lack of an illuminated slider. So guess what? The Teramar has an illuminated slider here. But there's no physical buttons for anything bar your hazards and your traction control. So everything comes through this baby. So there's a lot going on. As usual, you can set up your departure times, all the usual charging things if you're in a plug-in hybrid version of this car. We've seen it before. Hopefully the software is bang up to date in terms of reliability and stuff like that, but nothing too new there. You probably know by now, but in case you don't, the gear selector is now up here, giving you more space in this part of the car. There's again optional and only on the higher spec, there's a 12-speaker Sennheiser sound system that you can get on the vehicle. So if you like your tunes, you're going to have to pony up for it, but it's nice to have. A couple of paddles here. I'll explain on the drive, but when the transition between friction and regen brakes happen in a plug-in hybrid, sometimes you're just waiting for enough of a bite from the brakes. Cupra have done something in the Teramar to address that. So stay watching if you want to find out more about it. But yeah, I mean, it feels like the Tavascan up here, maybe not as spine-like here, but you know, it's still, again, it's different. You'll get into this and go, I mean, apart from that, it doesn't feel like a Kodiaq, it doesn't feel like a Tiguan. It must be quite a challenge to make something from the same stable look and feel differently. Certainly the feel part anyway. And Cupra have, I suppose, done little bits here and there to try and tweak this car in terms of its driving dynamics. I can definitely feel what they've done with the the brakes. So they have tweaked that sort of mid part where the regen is trying to deal with the brakes and you want more braking power, so then you have to press harder. That's kind of gone. So good job there, Cupra. Also, the transition from full battery to petrol when it kicks in is very, very smooth. Like really smooth. So again, good job there, Cupra. And it's not very often that you want to drive a SUV orientated for a family with any huge levels of spirited driving on twisty roads like I'm on now, but actually the car is up for it. Now I'm not in Cupra mode. If you flick that, you'll see the little Cupra logo pop on the top of your 10-inch driver display, and the suspension, once you have DCC fitted, gets tighter, and you get this somewhat augmented growl projected into the cabin, and it makes you, I suppose, feel like you're driving something sportier than you are. The default setting when you clip that is to put the transmission into sport also. So it comes alive, I suppose, is the way you could describe it. And in my opinion, the DCC is very, very welcome, and it's not standard on all the cars. Like, it's fake, but it's fake fun. You know, some things in life are better when they're augmented. Are cars any different? So you'll feel it just grappling for traction on the front wheels. Not quite torque steer, but I like the sound. And what? But what I do like about it then is you can just dial all that back, you put it back into your normal settings, and the car just softens, settles down. And actually, the suspension is really, really good. I mean, they're not bad roads in Barcelona and the areas I'm in, but you can definitely feel it when you put the harder setting on the suspension. But when it softens down, it's kind of nice. If you charge it, you're going to get 0 emissions. I've had it in a mix today, an automatic, and it's doing somewhere between 2.5 and 3 litres per 100 kilometres, and somewhere between 12 and 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres. And that does suggest that you should even get more than 100 kilometres out of a single charge in the Teramar. And that's how the engine sounds normally when you don't have any of those gadgets turned on. But on these sweeping, hilly roads today in Barcelona, you do kind of forget you're driving a family SUV for a little while. And I mean, the fact that it's as comfortable as it is on 20-inch wheels, albeit with the DCC in comfort, it's quite an achievement. I'll just do Cupra mode again. Like, it's a ridiculous engine sound, but it's a bit of crack. And if you are having a bit of a spirited drive, it kind of adds to the whole theatre of it all. The paddles are really far in, so when you're trying to use them, you've got to kind of wrap your hands around the back of the wheel. You can just about catch them with your fingertips, but I don't know why they're in so far. They'd probably be in the way of the gear selector and the wipers and stuff, but that's a bit annoying. It definitely has a sportier drive than the Tiguan. A little bit less body roll maybe. It is 10 millimeters lower on all versions of the Teramar, so you get that at least. From a safety point of view, the blind spot is integrated into the tops of the doors. There's an exit system, so if you try and open the door and there's a cyclist or someone walking up on your inside and you haven't seen them as you're getting out, it will beep to warn you that you're going to hit them. So your natural reaction is to pull the door back in. Something that is very clever, we've seen it before on the likes of the Renault Captur, but you can move that rear bench 15 centimeters forward if you need more boot space, and at least it's something that they have addressed to give you some wiggle room in the smaller PHEV boot. In the past, you were able to charge the cars that were plug-in hybrid from Volkswagen Group while you were driving. You can't do that now, so once the battery's gone, it's gone. It's like home store and more. When they're gone, they're gone. You end up burning a lot of fuel doing it, but some people might have used it to go into low emission zones in various cities and things like that. So if you've got to do all the family stuff when it comes to your next car, but you do want a little sporty edge, you want something that looks good, turns a few heads, something that you'll probably look back at and smile after you've parked it and you're walking away, I think you'll get a sense of that from this Teramar. And you know, it's not, I mean, obviously I'm driving the highest power version here, the 1.5 150 brake TSI will be the real, you know, bread and butter version in Ireland, so I don't want to get too carried away here, but if the budget allows you to go for the higher spec, higher engine, just do it. And if not, it's still going to look good, it just may not drive as well. There is no official word from Cupra Ireland that a diesel is going to happen in the Teramar, but let me just put it this way, somebody who would have a good insight into whether things can happen or not has said they're definitely talking to the factory about the possibility of getting some diesels into Ireland. Generally, when this happens, it's down to how many units do you reckon you can sell to make it worthwhile for everyone involved. So if you are hanging on for a diesel Teramar, it's definitely not going to be till 2025 anyway, but it's definitely not, it's not a no for now. Official pricing has not been announced, but another birdie told me the 150 1.5 150 brake horsepower 1.5 should start from about €47,000, and the VZ version of the PHEV with 272 brake horsepower will be around 57. Overall though, nice family SUV, not the cheapest, certainly one of the best looking, certainly one of the most different ones out there, and in the plug-in hybrid 272 brake, not a bad little car to go either. And you should be good for at least 100 kilometers on a single charge if you top it up. So it's going to cost you less to run at least. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Teramar. Would you have it over the Tavascan? There's a lot of cars and a lot of engines in this lineup. As I said at the start of the video, 150 brake horsepower right up until 272. So there's kind of something for everyone in the audience there. Anyway, time for my summary here in beautiful Barcelona. If you've never been here, just make it happen. Will the Teramar scratch the itch for you if you don't quite fancy the Tiguan and you think the Kodiaq is just a bit too family-like for you? Well, yes, it will, but terms and conditions apply. You have to have the higher spec engines to get things like the 2-valve shock absorbers. And obviously, you know, it's nicer to have those versions. All that said, if you want a 1.5 that should be under 50 grand, it will look pretty good straight out of the box because it's a Cupra. And the DCC, which unfortunately you only seem to be able to get on the higher spec models, really does transform the car. I often say it, and it is one of those price tick options, and you're kind of going, it's a lot of money, but I really benefit from it. Genuinely, I think you will, but it's not a cheap option to get. But certainly, if you want the family car, it will do all of that. The boot certainly is compromised for family stuff in the PHEV, but that's probably the one you might want to get. But looks-wise, there's nothing really quite like it in the family C-SUV market right now. Yes, there are cheaper cars like the recently reviewed Dacia Bigster on the channel, but it doesn't look like this and it doesn't feel like this. And for that reason, I think I'd have it over a Tiguan if you want to look that little bit different. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for coming with me this far on the video today, and there's ways to support the channel down below in the links. Still hasn't rained in Barcelona, so I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. Talk to you in the next one.